Tell him he's unconscious, not responding. Level 3, cardiac arrest. Okay, stop CPR and just move quickly.
I said no. He said there's been a murder. I said what? My son's been murdered.
A 15-year-old boy bangs frantically on a stranger's door in the early hours of the morning. Blood pours from 6 stab wounds across his body. He's gasping, crying, begging for help. With his final breaths, he manages to speak 2 names. The names of the boys who just murdered him. Less than a minute before this, one of those boys filmed the murder weapon, wrote "Muppet" across the screen, and sent it to his friends like it was a trophy. Have you ever backed up a friend in an argument online? Maybe you jumped into the comments to defend them. That simple act of loyalty is something we've all done. For Reese Tanzy, that act of loyalty became a death sentence. This is the story of how a Snapchat argument between teenagers turned into murder. How pride and social media pressure created a trap that a 15-year-old boy couldn't escape, and how the friend he was protecting abandoned him when it mattered most. Before we dive in, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you think Reese's story needs to be heard, hit that like button right now. Who was Reese Tanzy? Reese was 15 years old, just 15. He lived in Manchester, England, with his family in a normal neighborhood where kids rode bikes and played football in the streets. He went to secondary school. He had friends. He played video games. He was exactly like thousands of other teenage boys across the country. He wasn't in a gang. He didn't have a criminal record. Teachers described him as a decent student who showed up and stayed out of drama. His family said he was a good kid who cared about the people around him. That last part is important. Reese believed in loyalty. He thought that when someone you care about is getting attacked, you stand by them. You don't let them face it alone. In May 2021, as England was coming out of lockdown, Reese was just navigating teenage life like everyone else. The pressures of school, the drama of social media, the constant need to prove yourself. Reese Tanzy should be 18 years old right now. He should be finishing school, thinking about his future, maybe learning to drive. He should be alive. But on May 3rd, 2021, everything changed. And the worst part? The argument that cost him his life wasn't even his argument. The digital powder keg. Here's how it started. Mark Nuttall and James White, both 15 years old, got into an argument with another boy named Callum. The details? They don't even matter, because it was that meaningless. Some disrespect, some words exchanged, the kind of petty drama that fills Snapchat feeds every day and gets forgotten by next week. But this one didn't get forgotten. The argument moved from person to person, message to message, screenshot to screenshot. And that's when Reese got involved, because Callum was his friend. When Mark and James started targeting Callum, Reese did what he thought a good friend should do. He backed him up. Reese started replying to their messages, standing up for Callum. In his mind, he was being loyal. He was doing the right thing. What Reese didn't understand was that he'd just painted a target on his own back. The messages got worse, more aggressive, and here's where social media turns teenage drama into something deadly. Other students started getting involved. Screenshots were being shared. Kids who weren't even part of the original argument were suddenly picking sides, adding fuel to the fire. By midnight on May 3rd, at least 30 students knew about this beef. Some were asking for updates. Some were literally asking if they could come watch when things got physical. This wasn't private anymore. It had an audience. And with an audience came pressure, overwhelming pressure not to back down, not to look weak, not to be the one who chickened out. That's when someone suggested they meet up and sort it out face to face. A fight. Just fists. The meeting was arranged for 3 a.m. at Walker Avenue.
If you've ever seen social media drama spiral out of control, you know exactly how this feels. Drop a broken heart in the comments if this is hitting too close to home. The betrayal. As the night of May 3rd dragged on, Reese Tanzy was terrified. His messages from that night tell the whole story. He told Callum he was scared. He didn't think he could win a 2-on-1 fight. He knew the odds were against him. Every instinct was screaming at him to stay home, but he'd committed to showing up. And in the world of teenage social media, backing out would be worse than getting beaten up. Everyone would know, the screenshots would spread, he'd be labeled a coward. So even though he was scared, Reese started getting ready to leave. And then came the message that sealed his fate. At approximately 2:45 a.m., Callum sent Reese a message. Casual, almost dismissive. He'd changed his mind. He wasn't coming. He was staying in bed. The boy whose argument this was, the friend Reese was standing up for, he bailed. Reese typed back immediately.
Oh, put it all on the story that you're not coming. Well, I ain't getting called I'm not coming.
I am going to get battered for not coming. He understood exactly what would happen if he backed out now. Mark and James would tell everyone. They'd post about it online. After Callum had already ditched, if Reese didn't show up, he'd be the one who looked weak. So at 15 years old, scared and alone, Reese Tanzy left his house and started walking toward Walker Avenue. Let me tell you something about teenage brains. At 15, your brain isn't fully developed. The part that handles risk assessment won't finish developing until you're in your mid-20s. What that means is that peer pressure isn't just influential, it's neurologically overwhelming. The fear of social humiliation can actually override your survival instinct. Reese wasn't being dumb. He was being 15. And the friend he was protecting was safe at home while Reese walked alone into the darkness. The ambush. While Reese was walking alone through empty streets, James White was preparing very differently. Before James left his house that night, he went to his kitchen. He opened a drawer and he selected a knife. A large kitchen knife, approximately 10 to 12 centimeters long. He concealed it on his body. Then he left to meet Mark. This wasn't supposed to be a knife fight. This was arranged as a fist fight. But James White made a conscious decision to arm himself with a deadly weapon before leaving his house. That's not panic. That's premeditation. At 3:17 a.m., 3 boys converged on Walker Avenue. Mark and James arrived together. Reese arrived alone.
James White pulled out the kitchen knife and charged. Reese turned and ran. Pure survival instinct. His legs carried him down the street as fast as they could move. Behind him, James gave chase, with Mark following close behind. James closed the distance and plunged the blade into Reese's back. But Reese kept running. Wounded, terrified, bleeding, he kept moving until he tripped. When Reese hit the pavement, James caught up. And as Reese lay screaming, James stabbed him again and again and again. 6 times. 6 separate stab wounds across Reese's body. Reese was wearing an Apple Watch. That watch recorded everything. His heart rate spiking from a normal 72 beats per minute to over 180 in seconds. The exact moment the first blade entered his back. Technology captured the terror that no witness could see. Medical examiners later testified about the force required for those stab wounds, the angle of entry, the organs damaged. This wasn't a single thrust in panic. This was 6 separate decisions to plunge a blade into a 15-year-old boy's body. And Mark Newthall? He was there. He chased Reese through the streets. When James started stabbing,
Mark didn't intervene, didn't call for help, didn't try to stop it. Somehow, through sheer will or adrenaline, Reese got back to his feet. Blood soaking through his clothes, 6 holes in his body, he staggered away from his attackers and made it to a nearby house. He banged on the door with whatever strength he had left. The final moments and investigation.
Can you just tell him he's unconscious? Not responding. Level 3, cardiac arrest. Okay, stop CPR and just move quickly. Right, second adrenaline is going in. Brilliant.
The homeowner who answered that door in the early hours of May 4th would never forget what they saw. A teenage boy, covered in blood, gasping for air, eyes wide open with terror. They immediately called 999. But even as paramedics raced toward Walker Avenue, everyone knew it was bad. Reese was struggling to breathe, struggling to stay conscious. But even in those final moments, he managed to speak. He gave them 2 names, James White, Mark Newthall. With his dying breaths, Reese Tanzy made sure his killers couldn't escape. He solved his own murder. Paramedics arrived within minutes. They worked frantically to save him. CPR, chest compressions, everything they could do. But the damage was too severe. Reese Tanzy was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 15 years old. Within hours, Manchester police launched a massive investigation. They recovered the knife. They pulled Snapchat records. They tracked down every message, every screenshot, every piece of digital evidence. And they found something chilling. Shortly after the murder, James White had filmed the bloody knife. He added a caption, "Muppet," and he sent it to his friends. He was bragging, showing off, treating a murder weapon like a trophy. Reese used his dying breaths to make sure his killers faced justice. If you believe his bravery deserves to be remembered, hit that subscribe button right now. James White and Mark Newthall were arrested within 24 hours. The evidence was overwhelming. The Snapchat messages, the Apple Watch data, the knife with Reese's blood. There was no escape. Reese had made sure of that. Justice and the trial. The trial began months later, and the nation watched. Prosecutors laid out the timeline, the Snapchat beef, the arranged fight, James bringing the knife, the chase, the 6 stab wounds, Reese's final words. The evidence was presented piece by piece. The jury saw the messages. They heard the 999 call. They learned about the Muppet caption. James White was charged with murder. Mark Newthall was charged as an accomplice to manslaughter. While he didn't wield the knife, he participated. He was there. He did nothing to stop it. The judge made it clear that presence and inaction carry consequences. The judge spoke about the knife crime epidemic affecting young people across the UK, how social media amplifies conflict, how one moment of violence can destroy multiple lives forever. Reese's family gave impact statements that brought the courtroom to silence. They spoke about the boy they lost, the son, the friend, the young man who had so much life ahead of him. His mother said something that still echoes today. "My son died being loyal to a friend who abandoned him. He died because he thought backing down made you a coward. I wish I could tell him that walking away takes more courage than showing up." So, what do we take from this tragedy? First, social media makes everything worse. A petty argument that would have been forgotten became a public spectacle with an audience demanding blood. Screenshots turned private beef into performance art. If you're in a situation that's escalating online, step back. Block people if you need to. The humiliation of backing down lasts a day. Death lasts forever. Second, peer pressure at 15 is not the same as peer pressure at 25. Teenage brains are still developing. The fear of looking weak can feel more important than staying alive. That's not stupidity, that's neuroscience. Parents, talk to your kids, help them understand that walking away is strength, not weakness. Third, loyalty has to go both ways. Reese stood up for Callum. He walked into danger alone because he thought that's what friendship demanded. And Callum stayed home. Real friends don't let you face danger alone. Finally, carrying a knife doesn't make you safer. It makes everything deadlier. James White brought a knife to what should have been a fist fight. That decision transformed a teenage scuffle into murder. Reese Tanzy was 15 years old. He loved video games. He made his friends laugh. He thought loyalty meant everything. He had dreams and plans and a whole life ahead of him. He died in the street at 3 a.m. over a Snapchat argument that no one even remembers the details of anymore. His name should be known. His story should be told. Because maybe, just maybe, if one teenager watches this and decides not to meet up for that fight, if one parent has that conversation about peer pressure, if one kid decides that backing down is actually the brave choice, then Reese's death will have meant something. Share this video. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Comment below with the one lesson you're taking from Reese's story. And subscribe to this channel. We're here to tell stories that matter. Stories that might just prevent the next tragedy. Stories that honor victims by making sure they're not forgotten. Reese Tanzy deserves to be remembered, not just for how he died, but who he was. A loyal friend, a good kid, a 15-year-old boy who made a mistake that cost him everything. Rest in peace, Reese. Your story will save lives.